student, Mike, who used to go to the rabbi's lecture, and he attended, but he was not very interested in the class. He came, but his life did not really reflect the intention of someone who is very committed to growth and self-improvement. So one morning, he came to the rabbi and he said, "You know, Rabbi, after your lecture yesterday evening, I just couldn't fall asleep." So the rabbi was very surprised, because the man, Mike, was not the type to worry so much about his action, his feeling, his self-improvement, and his awareness that it would bother him so much that he couldn't fall asleep at night. So the rabbi said to Mike, "Listen, Mike, I don't know what bothered you so much about what I said last night. It even seemed to me you were so relaxed that you even fall asleep during the lecture." So he said, "Exactly, Rabbi, because I slept during the lecture, I couldn't fall asleep at night." So tonight, if you're paying attention, that's great. If you're falling asleep, that's great, but don't complain to me if you fall asleep. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you a story that happened many years ago, about 1800 years ago. And it's recorded in the tractate, the Talmud tractate of Bechorot on page 8b, that a sage called Rabbi Yoshua ben Hanania was challenged by the emperor of Judea. And let me tell you a little bit about Rabbi Yoshua ben Hanania. He was a leading Torah sages of his time during a very tumultuous time of the Jewish history before and after the destruction of the Second Holy Temple in Jerusalem. And he lived through the regimes of 13 Roman emperors. So you see that the people that sometimes are making fun are the oppressors, and they come and go, and the people that have true eternal value, they stay longer. So anyway, he went through Tiberius Caligula was horrendous, Claudius Nero, Galba, Otto, Vitellius, Vespasian, Titus, Domitian, Trajan, and Adrian. So I don't know which of these emperors challenged him, but he was a student of the great Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, and he had this discussion with the emperor. So one day, they're having this intense discussion regarding the findings of the Athenians sages. Okay? And they were talking about the gestation and the birth of snakes. I'm not going to go into that conversation. But Rabbi Yoshua made a statement to the emperor that the Jewish sages are smarter and they know better than the one in Israel. They know better than the sages in Athens, in Greece. So the emperor said to him, "If you are wise, go and defeat them in a debate and bring them to me." So, you know, there were 60 of them. 60 of the sages in Athens. At the rabbi's request, he planned everything. I mean, this is a huge enterprise. So he asked the emperor to furnish him, to give him a boat with 60 cabins, and in each cabin 60 seats. Once the boat is ready, he sails, and here goes to Greece. He goes to Greece, and you might not understand how big a thing this is, because the sages in Greece were like a council that was secret. Nobody was allowed in, nobody was allowed out. It was like a secret sect, and nobody could get in. And if the sages would see that somebody came in, they would kill the guards that were outside. And if they would see that somebody came out, they would kill the guards that were inside. So this was very, very difficult to get in and out, and it was very dangerous and arduous to even reach and talk to them. So I will skip a lot of the details of how I got in, because I personally don't like suspense movie. I don't like Hitchcock. I don't like it when he makes my heart beat. It was like a very difficult thing for him to do, but in any case, he did it. So Rabbi Yoshua, being very astute, finally he stood in front of the honorable sages and he greeted them, which in itself, you think you greet sages, it's a simple matter. It's not, because they were sitting with the youngest people on the top, the oldest people on the bottom, and whoever he would say hello first, he would risk of getting killed. Because if he says hello to the older one, which are sitting on the bottom, the older one said, don't you see we are higher? You're not saluting us first. And if he'd say hello to the one higher, the older one would say, don't you see we're older? So it was a big mess. So what do you think he did? Because if you insult anybody, you get put to death. This is kind of society. So it's not woke yet, but it's like that. You know, they have right of life and death over people. So what do you think he did? Peace to you. This way he didn't insult anyone, didn't say anything. This is the same strategy they teach to first responders when there's an emergency. De-escalate the situation. The situation was obviously very tense because, I want to tell you in brackets, all the guards got killed because of the way he got in. So they had a lot of already people being killed that day. So he said, peace, bro. And they asked him, what are you doing here? So he said to them, I'm a sage of the Jews, and I wish to learn wisdom from you. Like a very non-confrontational, you know, like I'm here to learn from you. They said, so if so, we will ask you questions. Because in other words, you're not fooling us. We know very well why you came to us to debate. So we're going to ask you questions. It's like he's trying to keep things calm, but it's not happening. So he said, very well, if you defeat me, you can do whatever you want with me. But on the other hand, if I defeat you, you have to break bread with me on my ship. In other words, I'm inviting you to dinner on my boat. Okay? So that's very little risk for them, and all the risk is for him, right? So they ask him very tricky questions, and he answers. He answers fine. And then they ask him to tell a story. They ask him to tell a story. I mean, you understand, these are very high, powerful, but very philosophical people. They ask him to tell him a story. So he says, there was a mule which gave birth, and around its neck, it had a document in which was written, there is a claim against my father's house of 100,000 coins. So now, what do you think is going on there? The sage of Athens got his first trick. He says, hello, a mule cannot give birth. Because that's the first thing he said in his story. There was a mule that gave birth, and right away they caught him. So they caught him right away. They said, what do you think? Like, you're not fooling us. A mule can give birth. So he answered them, you know, this is one of his stories, you know, like, calm down. Now, they said, now they're asking him another question. When salt get rotten, because in the days, salt was a major way to preserve food. The meat, the vegetable, anything. Hello? Hello. So when the salt gets rotten, with what does it need to be salted? In other words, with what does it need to be preserved? So they're asking the question, if salt, which is the way what we use to preserve food, gets bad, what do we use to preserve it? That's the question, yeah? So he said, they said, is there a placenta in a mule? Because a mule is a hybrid between a horse and a donkey. It's extremely, extremely rare that a mule can give birth because it cannot give birth. So it doesn't have a placenta, so it cannot give birth. So, so the whole story is getting to be like, you know, what's going on here? The sages of Athens said, and is there a placenta of a mule? And he answered, and can salt become rotten? That was his answer. And the story continues back and forth. They ask questions, he answers them non-stop, and he got the best of them. And they lost their bet. And they had to go on board of his ship to have dinner with him. And he sat them each one in a separate cabin. And each one thought that now the other ones are coming, because in each cabin there were 60 chairs or 60 pillows or whatever they were sitting on. And so they're waiting for everybody to arrive. Meanwhile, everybody's getting in, everybody's getting in, everybody's getting in. And as soon as all the sages of Athens were all in, everybody thinking the other ones are arriving, he sails back to Judea. And he brings them back to the emperor. That's how he tricked them. But that was a real feat. Now, this sounds like a funny story, right? I mean, first they ask about, you know, a story about a mule. He says the mule cannot give birth. And then he says, well, you deal with the salt, with the placenta of a mule. Like, what's going on here? Yeah? So the truth is that all these stories that we read in the Gemara, in the Talmud, are really parables. They're hidden ways of saying things. And they have very, very deep meaning. You don't think that people all over the world for centuries and centuries are studying these things if it doesn't have some, you know, real, you know, weight to it. So let's go into the funny story, okay? Let's go beyond the funny story aspect of this. There's a rabbi who was a rabbi in Volozhin, who had a very famous yeshiva, the yeshiva of Volozhin. His name was Rabbi Chaim Ikovitz. In Lithuania, about 300 years ago, he wrote that in his book that this parable, this specifically, expresses a profound truth about Jewish existence. And we're going to see that it really explains a lot about existence in general. So the question that they ask, what do we do when salt, which is a preservative, it helps you keep things in good shape, right? What do we do when it goes bad? This question that was asked by Athenian sage translates like this. When we in life are given a test, a challenge to help us grow and be better, to preserve our individuality, to make us grow, and the challenge is so tough that instead of making us better, it makes us worse. What do we do? That is the real translation of the question. What do you do when the very challenge that is supposed to help you blossom and increase your spiritual growth is so difficult? It's not lifting you up, but on the opposite, it's plunging you deeper and deeper into darkness and making you go down instead of elevating you. What if instead of blossoming, you are growing thorns and bad temper, addiction, or emotional crisis? What do you do? When things get bad, it's supposed to make you grow, but it's so bad that it's really falling apart. That is the question that the sages from Athens were asking. So it happens in life journey. Sometimes things are a little bit quieter, we enjoy things, having a good time. You rest from previous issues that happened, and now you're relaxing, nice and fine, and now another challenge presents itself, boom, here you go. You deal with this one now. Because what do we have? Here we are, ready or not, we're facing another spiritual issue to make us grow stronger, but intellectually, we know it's for our good, so that we become stronger, but we don't enjoy it, we're scared, we don't want to confront it, we don't want to get into it at all, we don't want to deal with it. And so, but here it is, we have no choice, we have to deal with it. So some people, they want to escape from it, they drown in addiction, it doesn't help, because it doesn't take the challenge away. And, hello. And when we're trying to overcome the problem, we get more and more enmeshed into more problem and more complication, and it brings despair to the person that feels like giving up. And it's a problem. It's supposed to make you better, and now it's making you worse. So what do you do when the challenge gets you so woefully that now it's worse than it was before? Before you were good, having a good time and doing good. Now it's like all hell break loose. So when the crisis is so grueling that you don't see a solution inside, you don't see a solution. What do you do when you feel at the bottom of the pit? What do you do when instead of the challenge that life presented to you for growth and awakening, instead is pulling you so down, you're turning bad? What do you do when the toughness overcomes your ability to cope?
Pray to God.
This is the question the Athenian sages ask. What do you do when soul gets putrid? So here's the answer from Rabbi Yoshua ben Hanania. Because believe me, he had an answer to everything. You know why he was so smart? His mother used to take him as an infant into the study hall so that he gets imbibed, like imbued with all this. From infancy, when he was in the little crib, she used to take him in the little crib and put him there so that he listens to everything, even if he doesn't understand. But he hears it, he absorbs it. It's like osmosis, you know? And I mean, give credit to the mom. I mean, she groomed him to be a genius. So anyway, he became extraordinarily smart. Yeah, he had an answer to everything. And his answer was, apply to that bad soul that got bad, apply the placenta of the mule. And now that's a Jewish sense of humor, because they were just telling him before, a mule cannot give birth. That was the beginning of the story. And now the mule doesn't have a placenta because it's sterile. So if the animal, but he said, this is what you do. That's his answer. His answer is, if the animal has a placenta, it must be that the appearance that it's a mule are lying, and it is not a mule. If it is not sterile, maybe it looks like it, but it's not. That's his answer. The afterbirth, which is another word for placenta, is where the baby is nurtured and protected and grow, right? It's getting ready to be born. It's the place of gestation, pre-birth, right? Just like we have now since the 17th of Tammuz till Rosh Hashanah, this 10 weeks, it's pre-gestation, it's pre-birth, pre-Rosh Hashanah, pre-beginning of the year. So what does the afterbirth denotes? Birth pang, deliverance, and the stage that is most difficult, but the closest to actual delivery. You know, all the midwives are saying, you know, if it's hurting the most, it means it's soon over. When people give birth, this is what happens. Just the thought that this is going to be over, it gives strength to people. This is what the midwives say. At the moment that is the toughest, it says, it's going to be over soon. You're about to give birth now. That's it. The baby's going to come out. And this is what we have to know, that just the thought that it's going to be over at some point, usually we hope that it's soon, because if we think that it's going to be far off away, we lose hope. That's why when Jacob, the patriarch, was on his deathbed, he wanted to tell his children when the end of time is going to be. He was not let, because if you know how long it's going to take, you just lose hope. You just like, don't work for it. But every time you think it's going to happen soon, it's going to happen soon, so you work for it. So We're not told when, but it's soon. It's soon. It's going to be over. And, you know, it gives strength to know it's going to be over. It's just like when people are in the desert and they're completely, they can barely walk. They can barely walk. They're titubing like this. They can barely walk. But if they see water, all of a sudden, they would run. They can run. It gives them strength just to know that finally they're going to be able to have water. So when the suffering gets so bad that we think that we are at the end of the rope, and some people actually commit suicide because it gets so bad. But, you know, we live in a time where political event, you know, raises hair on our head, and we think this is the end of the country, cannot be turned around anymore, we lose hope and we feel like giving up. But everything changed. We have to know in life, everything changed. Life is a constant movement. So we have to know, King Solomon, on his ring, he had the initial of the word Gamze Le'avor. These two shall pass. To remind himself, everything will pass. Even if it looks like the opposite. Even if it looks like the opposite. Even if you don't feel like it's for your good, at least intellectually, keep that in your head. Keep it in your head. This is for the good. Even if you don't feel it's for the good, at least keep that in your head as a little sticker over there, right? It buys you time. It buys you time. The thing is, everything will pass. And when I say everything will pass, you have to take it a very broad view of things. Sometimes it takes more than a generation. Sometimes we don't see it in our lifetime. But everything will pass. Things are changing, always changing. This is a rhythm of life. Things always change. So when we get frantic and desperate and say, okay, cannot stand this anymore, we end up making very bad decisions because our brain is not functioning well. So we don't act into our best interest. So first thing to know is that all that happened is for our good, even if it looks like the opposite. Even if it looks like the opposite. Even if you don't feel like it's for your good, at least intellectually, keep that in your head. Keep it in your head. This is for the good. Even if you don't feel it's for the good, at least keep that in your head as a little sticker over there, right? It buys you time. It buys you time. So then another thing to do is to breathe. I know it sounds silly, but you'd be amazed that in time of desperate situation, we block the oxygen from coming into our body. We are so tense that all our nervous system is completely messed up, and immune system messed up, everything is messed up. The breathing brings oxygen, relaxation, calm. Sleep over it if you can, but breathe. Especially when the rough time piles up on you from all sides, breathing is very hard. I remember having palpitation, and I realized that whenever I'm having palpitation, it's because I was not breathing. So I learned to, when I wake up, what is going on, assess the situation, and breathe. Another thing is to seek help. Because very often we think we have to do it on our own. And it is true that every challenge is directly at us specifically as a person. And everything is custom made for us. It's a challenge made for us. But seek help, professional help, black humor help, friendly help, self-care help, friendly help, any, like people that have the same opinion as you have. Be part of a group. Be part of a community and seek help. Don't be like the macho guy, I'm too shy, I'm too proud. I've seen a lot of people that are too proud to ask for help, and it ends up very badly. So when you need help, get down from your ladder, get down from your pedestal, and ask for it. From anybody who can give it to you. Sometimes it's a total stranger. Sometimes it's someone that you got their phone number from. Sometimes it's a group. Sometimes it's whatever it is.
Yeah, people think that they're the only one having a problem, right? I'm in such a big problem. Everyone has a battle. Everyone has a problem. So everyone goes through tough time. Everybody does. So don't think, oh, I'm not going to tell people. No, seek help and share it. So also take stock of previous event in your life. See how at the time where things were really, 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 really tough and you had no idea how you're going to do it, what's going to happen, how you're going to get out of the situation. Somehow, at some point, it got better. Just remind yourself, because you live through times like that. Life is not a straight bad or a straight good. It's always up and down. So you've had time where things were bad and it got better. So remember that it's going to get better. Remember it's going to get better. People, like, I hear people want to suicide and all that stuff because this and that. I can't take this anymore. I can't take this anymore. And the next thing you know, a year later, they're going out, this and that, having a good time. It is bound to change. It cannot stay down. So take stock of previous events that happened to you. I'm not talking about other people, that happened to you last year, or maybe if you're talking about a national, national context, centuries ago, or maybe a decade ago when things were so bad, this crisis, that crisis, this happened, and then the country recovered. Take stock of past events, okay? And there is usually when there's a bad time, right away after that, there's a huge blessing. That's the rule. When Noah got out of when the flood was over, there was a huge blessing. And what happened at the blessing is that all of a sudden you have, something grows and give grapes and wine on the same day. It's a huge blessing. It's like, that doesn't usually happen. I'm hearing a lot of people say, listen, there's going to be in the financial world, there's going to be a huge, huge financial crisis. Keep cash in reserves, because after crisis, that's when you're going to make the most money. So keep cash to invest. So you have to realize that these things that are bad, they're bad, but they're bringing something very good. You just have to be very patient, okay? And feel and imagine it, the desired future. It helps you transform your faith into trust, into something you really feel. So now the point today is to know that when the worst is happening, it means that the best is imminent. That's what it means. So that's why we have a tradition that Mashiach, the Messiah, is born on the 9th of Av, on the worst day of the Jewish calendar. It says Mashiach is born on Tish'a B'av. Why on that day? And the day is bleak, is full of despair, that's when we recalled all the Holocaust, all the destruction, the catastrophe of all the nation for millennia. But we're told in the Talmud, on that fateful day, this is precisely when the salvation is born. How can that happen? As a coach, sometimes I do an exercise with clients when I ask people to tell the story of their life, the whole life, right? From the time they're born to the present in 3 minutes. You have 3 minutes to tell your story. It's okay. Well, when I tell this, I tell people in advance, I'm putting the time, you have 3 minutes. You have to choose what to say during the 3 minutes because it's very limited, right? And then I ask the story from present to when they were born, backwards in 2 minutes, and then again frontward in 30 seconds. So I want to tell you this. When you have to do the story of your life in 3 minutes, pretty bad. When you have to do it in 30 seconds, it's even, what do people tell you? What do people come up with in these 30 seconds of talk? You know what they come up with? I can tell you almost always. People will mention the challenges they had, not the easy, happy time. but they're going to mention the obstacle they had to overcome, because these most striking events were the most meaningful in the long term, and they transformed their soul. So this difficult event were the birthing place of who they are now. So if you tell, what's your life story? Who are you? What happened? The strength they acquired on the tough journey are now part of their being, and they emerge, this tough time, they emerge as the most meaningful time. So you think this is so tough, you want to get rid of it. With a wider perspective, it happens that these are the most impressive times. Now, let's go back to the birthday of the most wanted person, Mashiach. People are longing for a better time, for peace, for well-being, for harmony. All this is the promise for perfection in this world, right? Everything is going to be just good, right? Nothing bad. That's what people are hoping for. The concept of Messiah, of Mashiach, is not a simplistic notion like they teach maybe in the little kids. You have to make things very simple. That one day, one man is going to show up, and all of a sudden, everybody's going to agree on everything, and they're going to listen to everything he says, and the world will be perfect. You know, it's truly, sometimes the people, this is what happens. That's what they think. And I think this is a little bit childish, because the concept of Messiah is a personal concept. It's a national concept. It's a global notion that we are on the road to a better time, to a better future and a better world. In Hebrew, we call it tikkun olam. This is when things get all fixed up. But the concept we believe in is not that there is just such a thing. The concept we believe in is Biyat HaMashiach, the coming of it. The concept we believe in is a process. It's an evolution towards an ideal. And we all have a part in it. We all have a job. So if we apply this concept to an individual level, the time of challenges and the time of the hard decision or event, it makes us feel like we're losing it, like we're on the verge of the abyss, that there is no solution. We feel the pain, we feel the despair, and we have to think. Salt does not go bad.
It might seem like it. The hardship cannot make us work. Even we think, oh, we're losing it right now, we can't handle it. But it's not going to be worse. At the end, when I say at the end, I'm not going to lie to you. It's not the end of the challenge, because once you finish one challenge, there is another challenge that pops up. Because that's the rhythm of life. You know, you fix one thing, there's another thing. It's like laundry, you know, just keep popping up. But I'm not going to lie and say, okay, once you finish this, there's so many people say, you know, if I meet the right man, everything will be just perfect. Or if my company takes off, that'll be my dream come true. It's not true. People are deluding themselves, because once you reach one thing, you're going to go to another thing. So you see, the essence of the coming of Mashiach, the essence of this, what we call tikkun, is the process. It's the process and its expansion. So it doesn't stop. It's like the universe doesn't stop. So what do you think there's this thing that is going to stop? So it keeps going. The universe is made like that. So things keep popping up, but we also have resting time, fortunately. Breathing time to recover, to rejuvenate, to recuperate, and then the next thing happens. So you take your nap, you relax, you do your yoga, you take a nap, you take a bath, and in the back of your head, you get ready to face the next one. because now you're going to feel stronger. You know you're going to be stronger. And you're going to be armed with more trust to know that this is life. It comes, it gets tough, and then it gets quiet. And you can see it in your own life. You can see it everywhere. Every living thing has this coming and going. So, in this portion of this week of Masé, in Numbers chapter 33, we read a list of all the encampments and the journeys of the Jewish nation during the 40 years in the desert before they arrived at the river of the Jordan River to go into the land of Israel. So it says like this. I'm quoting the translation of the verse. Moses recorded their stops along the way according to God's command. These were their travel to their stops. I see funny faces. What does that mean? So first of all, you notice that we're talking about a destiny. We're talking about something that is a process, something that is a mission. They were following a divine mission. It was Al Pi Hashem, according to the command of God. There is a plan, there is a direction, and there is a meaning to all this. You can't say, what's going on? All my life I worked for this, and now all of this is down. Or a person lost everything they own. Or a person is in a very difficult situation. Or a person is in a very challenging medical situation. You can't say, this is haphazard. There is a direction and there is a plan. And the plan is a good plan, even if you don't see it. So then there's two things that are mentioned each time in reverse order. The movement, the journey, the traveling along the way, the growth. And this traveling and this journey leads to the stops, to setting up the camp, to resting time. But notice also that the stops, notice also that the stops, the plateau in their growth, the time where they're coming to a place where, you climb and now you rested, just like, when people climb the Everest, they don't do it all at one shot. They rest, they become acquainted with the air, the oxygen level, and also once they know that they can handle this, and they stop and they rest, now you go on to the next journey. So in other words, the moment of respite and hence the expansion, and vice versa, the traveling, the moving towards a higher level was leading them to a resting place. So you have this alternate situation. The time of growth, the time of challenge, the line it goes crazy. And then you have the time where it's quiet, things are fine, we're doing okay. You rest. And the rest is leading to the next climbing, and the climbing is leading to the next rest. So this is the rhythm of life, and we need to be aware of that rhythm so that we don't get petrified when the bear gets out of hibernation. All of a sudden these things pop out and say, oh, what happened? No, you have to know this is a cycle. We as women, we know about cycles. We know about up and down. We know about menstrual cycle, feeling happy and feeling sad. But we have to keep in mind, it moves. Energy always moves. Everything moves. Whether we see it or not, nothing is immutable. Everything is a progress. It's like that in the whole universe. So we're deluding ourselves if we think that tomorrow, now, things will be the same as yesterday. Or some people do even worse. They say, oh, we're going to go back to the good old time. It doesn't happen. It's moving and it's moving forward. Atoms are in constant motion. People change. Population shift. Nation transform. And we can't think that, oh, it's going to go back to how it was before. Because it's moving. It's moving. our mission is dictated by what we want to see in the future. Our mission depends on what we want for our future. Whether it's on the individual level, national level, global level, whatever it is. If you don't do your mission, believe me, someone else is going to do it. It's going to happen. Someone else is going to do it, or you might not like it. Because they did it the way they wanted to do it. If it's your mission, you take responsibility, you do it, whatever it is. It could be tending to your garden, to making the world, completely different planet. I don't care. Your mission is going to be your mission. If you don't take responsibility for it, someone else is going to do it. You might not like it. Every place we find ourselves in, this is where we start the journey to the next stop. What do I mean by that? As we've seen, they journeyed and they stopped. It doesn't say they went to this place, that place, that place, and that place, and then enumerate like 42 places, which, by the way, are it's a very Kabbalistic secret things in these 42 places where they rested, and it has tremendous effect. And if anybody is scared of being involved in a plague or in a pandemic, if you recite the places where they're encamped, it's a segula, it's a protection against any epidemic. It doesn't say they went to Rephidim and then to Sinai and then to Graves of Craving and then Hatzerot and then Ritma and then Rimon Peretz and then this and this and this land. It doesn't say that. It says they left this place and they camped into this place. And then they left this place and they camped. They left this and they journeyed to this. They left this and they journeyed to this. So it's an alternate situation where you have a movement and a resting place. A movement and a resting place. And this is the rhythm of life. You have a huge challenge and then you get to relax. Another challenge and then you get to relax. Where do you start, and when you know where is your mission, what is it you're supposed to be doing, the first thing you have to know is where you are. Because if you don't know where you are, you're not going to know where you're going. Try to put Google Map, tell me how to go to Nashville, Tennessee. And you don't tell Google Map where you are. What's going to happen?
We'll find you from the navigator.
Huh? I'm not talking about the GPS that knows where you are, but I'm saying you input the data and it doesn't know where you are. If you don't know where you are, how are you going to know how you're going to get to another place? You can't figure this out. So the very, very first thing we have to do is to figure out where we are, and this is where we start our journey. So always take stock, always know yourself, figure out yourself, introspection, whatever you need to do to figure out what are your strong points, what are your weak points, how does your brain work, what do you do when you're tired, when do you function best, how do you organize your day or your week or whatever it is. You know where you are, okay? So, in fact, we have these challenges, these journeys that keeps us moving from one place to another. It's a generation. It's an intergenerational thing. We're not here on this earth alone. There were people before us, there are people after us, and we inherit our predecessor unfinished task and we hand it over to the next generation. And this is, it's like, and the Olympic, they relay the flame, they pass it on to the next guy, pass it. So you have a mission at birth, or maybe, when you wake up to it. Some people don't figure out their mission on earth until later in life. Doesn't matter as long as you figure it out. But let's say you have a mission, okay? And you're given the tools to fulfill your mission. Some of these tools are very personal. For example, a wife, a spouse. That's a personal tool. It doesn't get passed down. But sometimes it's something in your gene. Sometimes it's your possessions. Sometimes it is, your disposition, what kind of person you are, and you pass it on to the next generation, right? That's why we have laws of inheritance. Why do we have laws of inheritance? You think you're going to finish the work? You're going to be perfect? Your parents had problems. They work on it, they pass it down to you. Now you have problems. Now you pass it down to your kids. They pass it down to their kids. Everybody's passing down the stuff. The mission is to fix things, whatever they are, right? That's the mission in general. I'm not talking about everybody, each person in particular. But the mission is to fix things. So you are somewhere and you need to fix something. So if it's a tool, then you also pass down the tools. That's why parents give inheritance to their children, because they didn't finish their mission. The kids are going to have to finish. So you give them what you have to finish it. You pass down the baton, whatever it is, you know. It's not up to you to finish, but you are not exempt from starting and doing your best. That's it. We're not trying to make it perfect and say, oh, now we can rest, everything is beautiful. It's always going to things being pop up. Always. But the thing is, we need to work and to do everything we can. Like Dr. Zolenko, I'm really admiring him because this is a person that did everything he could in his lifetime. He felt that he could not finish all the things he wanted to do. So what did he do? He created a foundation. He passed over what he had for the next generation to finish and accomplish more. Sometimes, like, I laugh at myself because me and my friends, we say, oh, what is this new generation? What's going to be? What's going to be? It's never been so bad. It's never been so bad. I feel like old people talking because we heard it from our parents, right? And now we're saying it about the next one. And the fact is the same word, the same astonishment, like the same wondering, it's so bad already, where we're going at this rate. It's true, if you pay attention to the world's event, because it's not just one country, it's all over, things look pretty bleak sometimes. But this is what we have to remember. On the individual level and on the global level, this is what we have to remember. The bad stuff, it has one good thing about it. You know what it is? The bad stuff destroys itself. It cannot sustain itself. It's all bad. So the bad stuff, you have to know, it destroys itself. Now, maybe you don't see it this minute, maybe you don't see it next year, maybe you don't see it in 10 years. But you have to know that when something is bad, it's going to end. And from the depths and rock bottom, when you go into despair, God forbid, and you have to know the bad stuff is going to end. Because when you're all the way at the bottom, where can you go?
Nowhere.
Up. You can't go further down. You're done. You reach the bottom. So there's only one place to go. And it's and mind the rhythm. Don't lose hope because things are bad. Because things get bad, but they get better. They get tough and they get better. It's like the electrocardiogram. You know, if it's flat, it's a bad sign. You know? So, you know it's going up. Okay, now it goes down. It's okay. It's okay. It's going to go up again. It's going to go up again. And so be confident. Keep that in your heart and in your mind. The bad stuff is only there for us to act in a very courageous manner and to face the challenge. And I'm not saying like, you know, I'm telling you something, but I'm giving you a lecture. I'm not. I'm giving myself chizuk. I'm giving myself strength as I'm saying it, because everybody has the challenge they have to face. And we don't want to face it. And we go back. Where are we going? Where are we going? We have to go forward. We have to face it. Remember, it's not going to turn bad. Even if it looks like it's going to be bad, at the end it's going to be okay. The salt, the challenge, meant to help us grow, will not turn us into a worse person or into decay. It can be scary. It can be horrific at times. Unfortunately, I'm not being blind. Things that are really horrible happening. But in the end, there is a plan. And what we see as destruction harbors within it the seeds of a renewal. Just like Mashiach is born on Tish'a B'av. And it has, within the destruction, it has in itself the consolation and the joy. Within the plague, it has the healing. Just like when somebody is bleeding, the blood itself is making a scar, is helping with the healing. Be active, do what you have to do, but please be patient. If the story doesn't have a good ending, it's not over yet.
I like that line. That's a good line.
I like that line too.
Could you say it again, please?
If the story does not have a good ending, it's not over yet. Be patient. You know how kids always want to know the end of the story? I do that all the time. I read the end before I start the book. If it doesn't end well, I don't read it. So I like it when it's calm and quiet and pleasant. I don't like it when it's tough. But we have to think, because this is what we have to do. So we've got to be brave. We've got to be patient. We're going to remember. If the story doesn't have a good ending, it's not over yet.